Hi, and thanks for coming back to Rave TV. I'm Joel, and I'm sitting here with longtime acquaintance and colleague Bill Nattress, who's now with Biamp. But full disclosure, we go back 17, 18 years to when we both served on the Professional Education and Training Committee of InfoComm. So we've kept up pretty good. Bill, thanks for being with us.
Oh, my pleasure, Joel. My pleasure.
Bill's just left Shen Wilkie for Biamp. So some of the things I want to talk about to Bill are what it's like to move from a designer to a manufacturer. But before we even do that, I mean, one of the things we've all been talking about all week is the incredible loss to our industry that was the loss of Fred Shen. And I knew Fred, but I knew Fred as a business acquaintance, and I knew him as one of the great fathers of the practice of consulting in our industry. You worked closely with him. Mm-hmm. Why don't you talk to us about it?
The first thing to point out is in 1999, here I was, a young upstart programmer / engineer designer in the AV industry, and to have someone like Fred Shen, the icon that he was at that point in time, to say, I want you working for my firm, I want you designing for me, and it was an absolute honor to work in that environment and work with the individual. The doors that he opened up for me and the opportunities I got were just incredible. And in 17 years, the projects that I got to work on, just because I worked in that organization, were just some of the most incredible things. I mean, Millennium, the Crown Fountain in Millennium Park in Chicago, KAUST, King Abdullah University of Science and Technology in Saudi Arabia, Princess Noor University in Saudi Arabia. Just projects on these just grand scales that if you were to add up all the projects I had done in my entire career, one project cost more than all of those. And without having been at a company like Shen Wilkie, I never would have gotten that opportunity. I got to travel the world. Mm-hmm. And the neat thing was I got to travel the world sometimes with Fred.
Well, that's got to be, I mean, we've all, all week we've been talking about Fred and the way he changed the consulting industry and the giant projects that Fred was involved in. But you knew Fred personally.
Yes.
What was it like to work closely with an icon?
Well, and Fred Shen was a very dry, quiet, humble man. Huge presence in a room. You knew when he was there. But he was just very humble, very quiet. You'd never heard him laugh. And something that he and I started doing was we would see who could get the other one to laugh first. So in any of our interactions, whether it was on the phone or face to face, it was this little cat and mouse game between the two of us to see who would laugh first.
No, see, I've every time I've seen or been around Fred, he's very serious and, as you said, very quiet, almost a studious kind of guy. What was Fred's sense of humor like?
Oh, just sharp and brilliant. I mean, one day he's in Chicago. He was there for some meetings. I had somewhere to fly to. He had somewhere to fly to. My wife took us to the airport, and as we're driving to the airport, he goes, "So, Bill, how many miles do you have now with United?" And it's like, "Well, Fred, I'm at about 650,000." And he goes, "I'm at 1.7 million. You've got some work to do." Mm-hmm. That was Fred's humor, and it was, pointed, but very good and very funny. And every so often you would hit just that right line and just hit that funny bone, and he would let out a guffaw and just a good chuckle, and that was a good one, Bill. You won this round, and off you'd go to the next thing and next business thing you had to deal with. So,
if you could describe Fred as the head of a corporation like Shen Wilkie, what was it like to work for Fred?
You had to be on your toes. You had to know all the ins and outs of your project, because if you started talking about your project and you didn't know exactly where you were financially, where you were, in regards to the budget, the timelines, how much fee you had left, Fred was very uncomfortable with that and did not appreciate that you didn't know exactly where you were. So it was always about the business, but that did take the back seat to, is the client getting what the client needs? And will there be the solution in place when it's all said and done? And Fred knew that was as valuable, if not more so, than making a penny on the project.
Was it hard not to be intimidated by working for an icon?
When you first started there, yes, you were intimidated. And you know, he always had an open door policy. And of course, I was in the Chicago office, he was in the New York office. And anytime I would be in New York, you'd kind of go to his door, and it was always open. Unless there was something serious going on, that door was open. And you'd kind of stand in the doorway, and when he was finished whatever he was working on, he would look up and ask you to come in. And one day I'm standing there, and I'm just waiting and biding my time, and he's doing an email, and he's obviously thinking really hard about it. He never even turned and looked at me, and he goes, "Why don't you just come in and sit down, because I'm going to be a minute." So, but dearly love the man, and definitely going to miss him. I do think the firm is going to move on. I do think the firm is going to need to transition some, but it had been Fred's plan that that's going to be a slow evolution, slow transition. Tom ran the San Francisco office for a number of years. Tom moved back to New York and started moving into a greater position of leadership in the firm. And at the beginning of this year, he became the CEO. And it was very clear that Fred's plan was, I'm going to back this out. Tom is going to take it over. So, there's going to be some changes. There's going to be some personality changes. There's going to be some, structural changes that will occur in the company. Let that happen. That's healthy for them. So,
it's hard to work for an icon. I run a firm named for one of the winners of Pioneers of AV, which unfortunately we usually award posthumously. Right. And I am absolutely positive Fred's next for it, right? But to take over from Everett Hall was, somebody who owned, had designed so many of the pieces of gear that became the seeds of our industry. Right. Fred had some of the ideas that were the seeds of our industry. Right. So, part of it is, yes, I have a lot of friends who work for Shen, right? And we call it Shen, right? It's the Shen, Milsom, Wilkie.
And he hated that, by the way.
I understand that.
Fred hated that. It was Shen, Milsom, Wilkie. I'll let you slide. You can say SM and W, but
okay, all right.
But he did hate that.
But the industry says Shen.
The industry says Shen.
Yes. And while I totally understand that Shen, Milsom, Wilkie will go on and has good leadership and all that kind of stuff, you always feel the loss of an icon like that. People tried to use the phrase, "Oh, Joel, he's the new Everett," and I'm not, right? And not even close. And it's, that's going to be hard shoes to fill, even if he didn't have a lot to do with the day-to-day running of things anymore. He was the godfather. He was, and tell me, you have even more friends inside SMW than I do. What's the feeling like there now?
There's still a sense of shock. I mean, it just happened a week and a half ago.
Right.
And, I wish I could say that there's not this. It's good to grieve. They need to grieve.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I think what's more important to point out here is Fred knew how to surround himself with the people that would, create these new solutions, create these new environments. And even if it wasn't something where it came from his brilliance, he knew how to bring the people to him that would bring forth that brilliance. And you look at that list, I'm going to bring Hubert Wilkie on board. We're going to merge the two firms with the brilliance of Hubert Wilkie, and there's the true godfather of AV consulting in Hubie, but also like Ray Wadsworth, Irv Wood, these people that set forth some very new concepts within our world, and then in some instances documented it. Ray writing the first AV Bible.
Sure.
The first AV design guide, and then I getting the honor to be a part of the rewrite of it, 15, 18 years later. That was really neat. And Fred also allowed those people that he would see this ability within them, and he would allow that to be nurtured, and he would allow it to go forth. And I joined Shen, and then shortly thereafter, I was asked to serve on Petsy, because at that time was when you still had to be invited and sponsored.
Sure. Yep.
And the letter came, and Fred's like, "Yes, you should definitely do this. This is where you should be. Go." And I since became Educator of the Year, and I was Petsy Chair for a number of years, and served time on InfoComm's board, etc. And Fred wanted to see all of that going on.
Yeah.
So,
and I was fortunate enough to know you at that time when both of our hair was darker. And we both, I mean, same thing, Educator of the Year, Petsy, board, all of that. So we've paralleled during that period of time.
Definitely.
So I've had the good fortune of being around you during that time, and I haven't spent as much time around Fred. But when I heard the news, it was, you know, I was trying to explain to the younger people in my company what this meant, right? I mean, the passing of a true icon. And in the last few years, we've lost George Feldstein, Everett Hall, Fred Shen. I mean, the list, unfortunately, and this morning, Gordie Howe from,
right.
I mean,
big hockey fan here.
Yeah. I lived in Canada. I have no choice. Yep. But we've lost icons. How do you see the industry going forward? I mean,
it creates voids, but let's go back to someone else that you and I know, Fred Dixon. Okay. I learned AV facility design from Fred Dixon, and just had this wonderful privilege to get to spend time with him at Petsy events, InfoComm events, and other things that we did together because we were both in the Midwest. And his passing, it was painful, but the thing was, he taught that next generation.
Yes, he did.
To move it forward, and it was people that had the passion to keep going with it. And I had that passion, you had that passion. We all wanted to see this education keep moving forward. And why there isn't a void is because I see the generation that's come next. Jeremy Caldera, the Educator of the Year this year. This guy took everything that InfoComm and a great, huge sum of effort from many volunteers. He took that and created a college program at Columbia in Chicago, and has been teaching that program now for 3 semesters. And there are young professionals coming out of that program that are incredibly excited about AV and about whether it's the rental and staging or special event or installed market or even the consumer side. They're so focused on what quality user experience in AV is. You're seeing it all carrying forward.
What those icons left behind to us, I mean, and I knew when you were working with Fred, because at the time I was working with my mentors on the rental and staging side of those things. Yep. And being part of that group has always been a privilege, because not just was it we were documenting an industry and we were teaching an industry, but we were learning from each other at the time. I mean, we shared a lot of information. And for those of you who have not taken on this as a volunteer, it can look thankless, but it's not. It is, I have had the privilege of being able to pick up the phone and call Bill and ask questions when I needed to.
Or vice versa.
Right. And it is, for those of you who haven't done this yet, do it. It's the best thing that you could possibly do. I think what they leave behind to us isn't technology, it's passion.
Yes.
It's a feel for the industry. And rest in peace, Fred. Now you, okay, we're moving on to being that gray-haired generation. And you've just made another huge change, right? You've moved from the consulting world to the manufacturing and design world. Right. What is, we'll talk about Biamp in a minute, but what's that change like?
Well, first off, not everybody buys me my meals or my bar tab anymore. I'm the one that has to pay for it.
There's a good point there.
There's a joke to that.
By the way, you're taking me out for a beer.
Oh, we are. Okay, good. Good. Now, it's, first off, you got to understand why I chose to leave Shen. I loved the organization. I loved the things we created, but there was a level of stress. There was a level of
and there's not at a manufacturer. I work for Extron.
No, but the work-life balance was different.
Right.
And I've gone from the potential of receiving a phone call in the morning saying, we need you in Saudi Arabia tomorrow. Well, for me to have done that, you would have had to have called me yesterday. I can be there the day after tomorrow, but
right.
I've gone from that to right now I'm in control of my schedule, and it goes all the way out to November right now when I'm traveling and things like that. And I'm actually traveling more now than I was when I was a consultant, but it's my calendar, and it's It's where do I determine that I need to be, and when do I need to get there, and that's highly valuable. My wife and my kids are like, who is this guy? We haven't seen this in years, and it used to be that, get on the train at 6 o'clock in the morning, go downtown Chicago, work 8 hours in the office, get back on the train, come home, eat dinner, go back into at the desk, and you're working until midnight. I don't have to do that anymore. It's grab a cup of coffee, go in the office, maybe at 7 o'clock in the morning, and forget that you didn't take a shower and you just worked the whole day because you're working from home, and who cares? And if you need to knock off at 3 and work a little bit in the evening, but you get your time in.
So tell me about your new role for Biamp.
My new role with Biamp, I am focusing on their paging product. So Biamp brought out a product called Vocia about 8 years ago. It was designed to support the voice evacuation paging and critical paging solutions within public and corporate environments. It was designed around the EN54, which is the European standard for life safety and voice evacuation paging. And I often joke about it in the fact that, here was this incredible product that really could do a lot and could leverage a lot, but we couldn't gain traction with the product in the U.S. because the National Fire Protection Association said, you must have used standard traditional cabling. You cannot put life safety on a network. And the NFPA 72/2016 was published end of August last year, and in it, they finally have allowed Ethernet as a viable transport of life safety paging. So I joke about the fact now that it took the NFPA 8 years to catch up to Vocia. Very powerful platform, distributed architecture, no single point of failure. I can put it across an entire campus with devices in each building and page from here all the way over to there with minimum latencies. Just a very powerful product. What we're doing now is I'm focusing the team now on some new avenues of opportunities that with the changes in the NFPA have presented themselves. And it's strategic partnerships and alliances with security programming companies like video analytics solutions and physical security information management solutions. And I'm creating these relationships and developing these relationships for Biamp. And what's happening is it's a whole new group of companies that are now going to be able to access this product and make it a part of this integrated solution within these buildings that we're already doing, but we're just adding now the voice component to it.
Okay, so a little more freedom of schedule, a little less stress. What's the biggest surprise?
Honestly, it's the fact that I've been given a task and I'm expected to get it done, and nobody's looking over my shoulder. They're seeing an outcome.
That's a surprise anywhere.
It is.
Yeah.
But, they brought me on to do something, and they knew how I was, how I worked and how I was going to approach it. And, every couple of weeks I give them an update, and, here's where we're at, and these are the different projects we're working on. And typically the response is, you have a lot of irons in your fire. Okay. Something's going right, so long as I'm getting things accomplished.
As long as they're my irons, that's great.
Yeah. So I've enjoyed that fact. I've enjoyed the fact that I have a sales team of 35 people around the globe that I'm constantly interfacing with and helping them to do their job better with the Vocia product and with other integrated solutions. So, and now, of course, we're bringing video to the table, which is something new for Biamp, something new for many of these salespeople, but not something new for me, and I'm very excited to be doing it. So, is it a product that is directly under my supervision or my realm of reality? No, it's another Biamp product, though, and I'm going to help and support Biamp and whatever it does with it.
We talked about it in a Biamp interview yesterday, and I was stunned because I don't think of Biamp that way. And also, so there's another one of the challenge for all of you is that here's the problem with, and I run a company the same way, the problem with an old and respected name is that you are also pigeonholed by that old and respected name. So that's going to be one of your challenges.
Yeah.
But I really thank you for sharing, for coming, and for actually all the years of helping me out.
Well, thank you, Joe.
And you know, again, rest in peace, Fred, and Bill. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Joe.